Thank you very much for inviting me. Thank you very much, and my compliments to the organizers of the Asma Jahangir conference. There is this great proclivity. I'm going to digress for a minute, if you will permit me. There's this great proclivity of these conferences to grab the headlines, as I noticed this morning. I'll make my give my two bits on that also. It was my pleasure to be here 2 years ago, and on this very rostrum, I made a statement which grabbed some headlines, not as big as the headlines I've seen today. And it was the subject of some tickers, and those tickers were to the effect that, naming me, it was said that I spoke too much of the truth. And I will repeat what I said. On standing here, there is a context because of this present conference of today and yesterday. I had said that Article 62(1)(f) of the Constitution, which was introduced by General Ziaul Haq to control politicians, is actually the new 58(2)(b). It is not about accountability, it is not about corruption, it is about regime change. And I had expressed my candid views on that because I think the subject was something similar on that occasion. And that is what grabbed the headlines on that occasion. But what I am feeling doubly satisfied about, of having said that on that occasion, and on this occasion, that yesterday the President of the Supreme Court Bar Association said almost exactly the same thing, that Article 62(1)(f) of the Constitution is something that we need to revisit. And if I didn't read the whole news item, but he has made a statement from this platform that Article 62(1)(f) needs to be struck down. That is something I wanted to, as a preamble, I wanted to make mention of. As Chairman of the Senate Standing Committee on Human Rights, which I've had the honor of being elected early in June 2021, we have taken up several laws, starting with the law for the protection of senior citizens, law against domestic violence, which is now back in the National Assembly, law protecting domestic workers, law against corporal punishment. And then in the upcoming meetings, we are going to be taking up some legislation involving child protection, legislation involving protection of transgender persons, and we are taking up the Jokshio case and another case involving an incident of rape at a university in Balochistan. Other than legislation, we have taken up the Noor Muqaddam case. We took it up promptly after the Eid holidays, during which the incident occurred. The IG police of Islamabad, the Secretary Interior, and the entire team was there. We took up promptly after Pakistan's Independence Day, we took up the Minar-e-Pakistan incident involving the manhandling of a woman by a mob. And in the course of those, taking up those, pieces of legislation and those particular cases, we also learned from Senator Mushahid Hussain, who is a member of the committee, that on that very same day, the Independence Day weekend, there was an incident in a park in Islamabad also, where a Deputy High Commissioner of one of the Commonwealth countries, I think Ghana or Tanzania, one of those countries, faced some sort of molestation by a crowd. What has this taught me? Because I pored over this a lot, and we have had a long discussion in view particularly of the Noor Muqaddam case, the Minar-e-Pakistan incident, and those other incidents, similar incidents that took place in recent months, and not for the first time. There have been similar incidents in earlier years as well. The first thing that I have understood, and I want to posit, and I can see that there are opinion makers there, legislators are also participating in this conference, the police officials are present. As one headline item, I believe that it is not, of course all this new legislation is coming with new definitions, new punishments, better investigation tools and things like that. But what I have learned is that, and now history is also, empirical evidence also confirms this, that it is not the severity of the punishment that actually overcomes incidents of crime, and particularly crimes involving violence against women. It is not the severity of the punishment, it is the certainty of the punishment. If a perpetrator is aware that the law will chase up after him, if he or she is aware that the law will bring him or her into the dock and will punish him, and not that he or she is above the law or somebody or the other will intervene and make the law sort of inapplicable. The reason why I'm saying this is because there is a section 354A of Pakistan Penal Code. It addresses exactly the kind of incident that occurred at Minar-e-Pakistan on the 14th of August 2021. And mind you, there was a similar incident. There was a documentary filmmaker who had gone to the mazar of the Quaid-e-Azam Muhammad Ali Jinnah, and a similar incident took place, and there were 4 policemen standing and watching. And after she was able to disengage her and her crew from the mob, she went to those policemen and said, why didn't you come and try and stop this? And they said, there were 200 people, we are just 4. Why did you even come here? So Section 354A of the Pakistan Penal Code prescribes death penalty, life imprisonment for assault or use of criminal force to a woman and stripping her of her clothes. And this has been on the statute books through a presidential ordinance by General Ziaul Haq in 1984. So for 30 something years, this law has been on the statute books, but it did not deter a crime of this nature because of there is no certainty of the punishment. What punishment can be more severe than capital punishment? So that's the first thing, madam, that the certainty of punishment. So that's the issue that addresses the practical aspect. That is the issue that addresses the implementation, because that involves across the board, will and a culture of enforcing the rule of law. So it's number one, the certainty of punishment, not the severity of punishment. The second thing is that in our, and I've just exemplified that, in our sort of a patriarchal society, we are faced with the, and I don't think this issue has been addressed here so far, victim blaming particularly. That it is always the victim, not the perpetrator. Particularly if the victim is a woman. And mind you, when we were looking into the Minar-e-Pakistan incident, there was an incident of gang rape just around that time in the University of Mysore in India. And to add insult to injury, the administration of the university, the vice chancellor, issued a notification that women cannot go out on the campus after 6 p.m. So that also, it's not just us here in Pakistan and the conservative Islamic mindset. It is actually a subcontinental and a wider cultural mindset over here, which I believe, after talking about the punishment side, comes from training, comes from education, comes from training in the schools and training, overtly and also at the subliminal level, training at home, that those people who pass or issue notifications or pass laws, restraining women from going out after a certain hour, or saying that women shouldn't dress like this or dress like that. The same people should actually teach or train the men in their family, their male children, that they are the ones who need to respect women, they are the ones who need to respect the rule of the law, and they are the ones who have to adhere. And that can only come through talim in schools and tarbiyat at home. So there are 2 aspects of training, and the overt and the subliminal. And third and last but not least, what this has taught me is also these kinds of crimes can be overcome through a narrative building. Building a narrative now, I can see some media, not a whole lot of cameras rolling and whirring over here, but there has to be a narrative building, and the kind of content we have on the electronic and the social media, I believe right now, if only 15% of that, my estimate, 15 to 20% of that content, if there is a narrative building against violence that is perpetrated against women or against children, or the sex crimes of all sorts, if that kind of a narrative is built, and there is a narrative against it, and a consistent and a broad-ranging narrative, that will also enable us. I mean, this won't happen overnight, but that is what I believe, in my experience as the chairman of the Senate Standing Committee on Human Rights, that is what I have come to understand. And And I do understand, I recognize, I represent the government, and I believe this government wants to promote tourism. I know that. I believe this government wants to promote investment. Now, if we have incidents like Mirar-e-Pakistan or the one that the diplomat in Islamabad encountered, how can we expect people to come here with their families? How can we expect people to come and invest their money? So these are the things which I believe we need to do. And to conclude, where particularly this anti-rape legislation, I didn't mention it in the context of the Standing Committee on Human Rights. That legislation was referred to the Standing Committee on Law and Justice, which is chaired by Barrister Ali Zafar. We have stalwarts like Raza Rabbani and Farooq Naik and Azam Wazir Tariq in that committee. However, the committee added and improved on that law, but it lapsed before the constitutionally stipulated, within that constitutionally stipulated period. So it has been now passed and enacted in the joint session. Where it is headed, that answer I have already given you. It will, of course, it involves all those many things about new investigation techniques, new punishments, new definitions, etc., etc. Although the chemical castration has been taken out, it will encounter the same fate, I believe, as all the other, the legislation and the laws that have been on the statute books since 1984. If there is no certainty of punishment will actually take care of the issue, not the severity. Thank you very much.